Hi, it's James Harrison. It's time for Thursday Thoughts, and today we're going to talk about another group of drummers today. And I first off just want to say when I do this, like last week I did the drummers of Gino Vanelli, this is by no means a disrespectful thing because I'm not highlighting each drummer separately. It's just basically talking about what exposed me to the playing of these drummers. And so today we're going to talk about the drummers of Maynard Ferguson. And I know Maynard had many drummers over time, and I'm going to talk about, to me, the early years of Maynard Ferguson and how I was exposed to that and the drummers. So first off, two of my high school friends from band, one was Jon Noffsinger. He's an excellent jazz saxophonist. He's the I don't know what his official title is, but he's professor of saxophone at the University of Alabama. And then Terri McConnell, who's a trumpet player, one of my best friends, who is, well, we went to high school and college together. And through these two players, I was exposed to Maynard Ferguson. And I believe it was Terri that had the Chameleon album, and Jon originally turned me on to this. It's Maynard Ferguson Live at Jimmy's. I think it's technically called Maynard Ferguson 4 and 5. But prior to that, there was Maynard Ferguson MF Horn 1, Maynard Ferguson MF Horn 2, MF Horn 3, and the live album. So the live album was mostly some of the tunes from those previous albums. And I got into those later, other than the live one, hearing a jazz version of Eli's Coming, and of course the famous MacArthur Park version really caught my attention and caught my ear, and the drummer on that was a drummer named Randy Jones, and I became a huge Maynard Ferguson fan through that, and loved Randy's playing, and Randy played pretty much all those early Maynard Ferguson CDs. He went on to play with lots of other people and everything, but to me that era was when I was really into Randy. And that, the thing about Maynard Ferguson was at that time he was taking a lot of commercially successful tunes from rock and pop and stuff like that and making jazz versions of them. So from a drumming standpoint, it really captured my attention because there was elements of rock and fusion and swing and whatnot in there. And the Chameleon album, which I think came out around '74, featured a drummer named D Imperio, and that album I still play it all the time. That one really captured me. I had Chameleon, a tune called Gospel John. There was a Jet, a version of Jet by Paul McCartney. The Way We Were is on there. I'm drawing a blank on the other tunes right now. But anyway, it's just great. But another one that caught my attention off there, by the way, is La Fiesta. Just amazing. D Imperio. I've stolen licks from that album and used them, And following that, Maynard did an album that, I'm drawing a blank on it right now, but it featured Steve Gadd. And I believe it was the album that Gonna Fly Now was from. It might have been called Conquistador or something, I'm not sure. But and of course, we all know, where Steve Gadd, went from there and what kind of mark he made on the entire drumming community. And then there was an album after that featured Peter Erskine on drums, and again, a drumming legend and everything. And so that's mostly the era. I know another one of my drumming influences, a tremendous drummer, Gregg Bissonette, played on another live album that Maynard did later. And there's other drummers along the way, Jason Harnell and some others that were fabulous. And a great friend of mine from my high school days named Ed Sargent became like Maynard's manager or tour manager, road manager or whatnot. And so Ed got to be around that entire time and witnessed a lot of great playing and stuff like that. And I kept in contact with Ed, who's now with Joan Jett. But anyway, so the era of drummers to me were just, you know, some of them are not household names. Again, the Randy Jones and Dan D Imperio, to me, were both hugely influential on ideas and licks that I've stolen, and just the framework of some of their drumming. Again, because it was that blend of what I call rock and jazz together, but still had a looseness of that jazz, and then of course again with Gadd and Erskine, you know, who, you know, two of the biggest names ever in the drumming world. So when I say the era of Maynard Ferguson and those drummers, those are the four that I'm talking about era-wise from when I was really, really listening to Maynard Ferguson. And again, there's some things that came along later that I was really into with other drummers and whatnot, but those four drummers in particular, obviously, like I said, Gadd went on. I had heard him with Chuck Mangione and other stuff without knowing it at the time, some of the Paul Simon stuff and everything, but eventually, you know, Steve Gadd created a legacy that will probably not be duplicated. And Peter Erskine is one of my favorite drummers to this day, because I've never heard him play anything that didn't make any kind of sense. It made perfect sense musically no matter what he did. And you know, if going from, you know, Maynard Ferguson, Stan Kenton first, and then Maynard Ferguson, and then to Weather Report, and to Steps Ahead, and to his own grams and own bands. I was thinking of another band that he was in with. I'm drawing a blank. Saxophonist. It's not Michael Brecker. Everybody's going to say it's that. It's Bob something. But they had a quartet, and it was great and whatnot. And a lot of times when I turn the camera on, all of a sudden I draw a blank on certain things. But anyway, again, without getting off subject too much, you know, thanks Jon Noffsinger, thanks Terri McConnell for turning me on to those, and I still have those albums. Some of them I've converted to CD. Of course, they're basically on my iPod now, and I still use an iPod. Yes, you know, I steal licks. I still listen to that sometimes for reference for some things and whatnot. And I've been fortunate enough, all the way back to high school jazz band, where Joe Sills, rest in peace, who was directing the jazz band, played several Maynard tunes into later years when I was in the Wind Machine and Riverside Jazz Orchestra, big bands, and getting to play maybe Things Ain't What They Used to Be, and the Hey Jude version Maynard Ferguson did, and even La Fiesta, getting to play some of those tunes. So it was a dream come true in a lot of ways. And of course I channeled and tried to copy a lot of what I had heard some of those other drummers do. So today, go back and check out these drummers if you can. Anything from 1974 back to like 1971, Maynard Ferguson. Of course, I highly recommend the Live at Jimmy's Place 4 and 5, and the Chameleon album, those two specifically. Randy Jones. There's always a thing about a live album that's great. And then I said the Chameleon album, that's D Imperio. On that one, I just made that mistake. So a Chameleon album, D Imperio. The one after that, I believe, was Steve Gadd, and I've drawn a blank on it again. And the one after that was Peter Erskine. And then again, there's later recordings with Gregg Bissonette, who's another drumming hero and whatnot. But when I say the drummers of Maynard Ferguson, I'm mainly talking about those four, and specifically Randy Jones and Dan D Imperio. I never saw saw those other drummers play with him live. I wish I could have. With Gadd, or I don't even know if Gadd even toured with him, but I know Erskine did. But anyway, Randy Jones, amazing drummer, one of my favorites. Dan D Imperio, another one of my favorites. For those reasons, again, the blending of the different styles was just amazing. and then of course Steve Gadd and Peter Erskine, and later Gregg Bissonette. So anyway, there you go, the drummers of Maynard Ferguson. Check them out. You won't be disappointed.